This is kind of beautiful. So lately we've been seeing a lot of Republican on Republican crime. And I mean, they have been beating the snot out of each other. You saw the Bongino, I'm looking for TP for my bunghole. And Geraldo arguing on Fox, and two people on Newsmax who are both Republicans fighting over them, laughing about them doing it. Basically, all this infighting is beautiful to watch. Now, Newsmax, we know, acquiesced to the lawsuit from Dominion, apologized, backed off of it, and issued an apology, and it was tepid. And to the Dominion folks who are clearly watching from George Soros headquarters, where everyone is forced to watch my program, I would like to say to you guys, don't take Newsmax's word for it. It's not legit. I mean, I know legally they've held fast to what they agreed to in the agreement, but they figure the damage is done and they can just skate on it. And the videos are still up. All the clips of Newsmax on the internet saying that the Dominion machines are part of a big part of. There's all there. It's all online. And they didn't take it all down. They just issued the apology at the lowest the least popular hour of their programming, right? So OAN, on the other hand, though, is pulling a full Mike Lindell.
Fox News abandoning
because they're not bending to
its core viewers for an anti-Trump agenda.
Yeah. Fox News abandoning its viewers for an anti-Trump agenda.
Are turning to OAN and Newsmax for a reliable news source. However, as one America's Pearson Sharp reports, digging into the background of Newsmax reveals an organization with surprisingly left-leaning leadership.
Uh-oh. Newsmax is run by commie, lefty, Marxist, pinko, trans, mixed race, BLM, Antifa scum.
The number of reliable news sources is smaller than it's ever been before. And even,
well, especially with you guys. I mean, by percentage, when you guys showed up, you actually added to the negative. So, it obviously percentage-wise makes this shit like my stuff, an even smaller percentage. I see what you're going.
So it's still getting smaller. For a long time, conservatives could count on Fox News for an honest take on what was going on. But
then they realized they were being bullshit.
As we saw during this last election, Fox jumped ship and headed for waters that were a lot darker blue. Then there's
I like his analogies. We'll stick with him for a while.
Newsmax, which likes to project an image of being a home for conservative, right-leaning, or at the very least, center-right news.
Yeah, at the very least.
A place where anyone who's tired of Fox's increasingly...
By the way, the clip they're showing right now is them saying that the Capitol police officer or the Secret Service agent or the Capitol security member who shot her is a murderer. So that's too far left for them.
Left-wing angles can find a fresh take on news. But is that really the case?
No, clearly not.
If you dig deeper under the Newsmax image of so-called conservative...
My question is why are you reporting live from the set of American Ninja Warrior?
News. You'll find a very different...
Please do this whole report on a jungle gym.
Much more left-leaning organization. One of the best examples is how during the last election, Newsmax threw Trump under the bus and buckled almost immediately, declaring Biden the next president, despite
our cries to the contrary.
All the evidence of massive fraud and without...
There was none.
Without waiting for the contested battleground states to finish their investigations.
That's because there was nothing there.
Are you indicating that this Donald Trump claim is no longer valid?
Well, we have referred to Joe Biden as of yesterday as the president-elect, and he is the president-elect of the United States, and we will continue to do that. So
yeah, OAN reporting from Moonbase asshole.
There's no problem with that.
Another great example is just how fast Newsmax backtracked on their reporting about Dominion's voting machines during the 2020 election.
Yeah, it was like almost immediately after they were sued for $1.3 billion worth of money they do not have, since Yeah.
Newsmax employees
And neither does OAN.
must have gotten whiplash from how quickly the company changed directions on their coverage after a Dominion employee named them in a lawsuit.
An employee? The whole company sued them. An employee? It's not a sexual harassment charge.
Overnight, the company backpedaled, apologized, and retracted their own reports just to stay on that Dominion employee's good side.
Employee? Why is he saying employee? This is a very peculiar needle.
Is that what honest journalism looks like?
No, of course not. But we're talking about Newsmax, and we're hearing your report on Newsmax. I mean, this whole thing is a shitstorm.
If your reports are based on the facts, then what do you have to worry about?
Well, they weren't. They weren't based on facts, and they got called out for it in a court of law.
Famously, when MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell tried to discuss Dominion's voting machines, Newsmax cut him off, with one of the anchors even throwing a tantrum and walking off set.
Well, he walked off set. Do we have footage of the tantrum? Please tell me we have footage of the tantrum. Please tell me we have footage
The biggest red flag comes from the CEO of Newsmax himself.
Uh-oh. George Soros. Is it George Soros?
Chris Ruddy, who time and again has proven he's not really a conservative.
No, not really. He's just a billionaire.
He's just in it for the money.
Oh, yeah. And that's not conservative. The opposite of conservative is to be in it for the money.
Going all the way back to 2004, when Hillary Clinton was then considering a run for president, Ruddy wrote in a letter to former New York Mayor Ed Koch that she was doing a remarkably and surprisingly good job for New York as senator. He was
Which is true.
quick to add that he didn't dislike Hillary on a personal level, although he couldn't stand Rudy Giuliani, who he called a bad person.
Okay, so even though on a political level, I totally disagree with his ideas, he's still a fairly decent judge of character, and that's probably how he got in the position of power that he has to run an entire network that swamps yours. Rudy Giuliani is a bad person. I mean, he's also stupid, but he's also terrible.
Despite attacking him in the 90s, Ruddy is actually a big fan of Bill Clinton as well. So much, in fact, that he publicly
Besides attacking him in the 90s, he was a big fan.
donated $1 million to the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, to the foundation. You mean to fight AIDS in Haiti and that kind of stuff?
The New York Times explained Ruddy's position by saying that he didn't actually believe his own reporting. He was just scrambling to convert Mr. Trump's political profile into cash. In an article from last November, the Times claimed that Ruddy, quote, thinks his audience...
And by the way, again, these assholes are quoting mainstream media articles which they decry nonstop. Let's not forget that entirely their entire broadcast, every time they talk, is about the mainstream media is full of lies and it's all fake news and you can't trust anybody. And yet they constantly use it as their primary source for the basis of their opinions, and you should too.
...is stupid enough to fall for it, dumb enough to keep watching even after the fantasy inevitably...
He has them watching a great story, a thriller, a whodunit about a stolen election. He thinks they're stupid enough to fall for it, dumb enough to keep watching even after the fantasy inevitably dissolves. Buying the supplements and the books, and crucially tuning into channel 1115 in large enough numbers that eventually the cable companies will pay him. Perhaps he actually thinks his viewers are that dumb, or maybe he just needs them to stick around long enough for him to find someone just as cynical, but with more cash in mind to buy him out. This is the opinion of the writer as a media columnist about what he thinks the motivations are.
dissolve.
He says he thinks in one sentence, but then he says perhaps he actually thinks.
And if you still aren't convinced about how left-leaning Ruddy really is,
I'm not convinced. I mean, you're trying very hard, but mainly you're boring me.
You don't have to look any further than this article he wrote himself back in January.
Oh, okay. An article he wrote himself in January. Guys, it's going to be summed up. We're going to find out the inside scoop. We're going to find out that he's just how, like, he's a student of Richard Wolff, and he thinks that we all need to work on a pineapple farm.
In his piece, Ruddy praises Biden for being a moderate and for choosing people like Army General Lloyd Austin for Secretary of Defense, a man Ruddy calls a centrist.
Lloyd Austin. Now, what problem could they have with Lloyd Austin? What could it be that would drive, what could upset OAN about Lloyd Austin heading the, I'm trying to think, what could it be? There's something about Lloyd Austin that really, I mean, he's pretty run-of-the-mill as a choice. I can't think of what it might be. There's something I gotta, I don't know. Somebody in the chat room will let me know. I think maybe, I don't know. Where are we? There we go. Lloyd Austin. I don't know what that, could possibly, oh.
For anyone who isn't aware, Austin is now behind one of the largest efforts to radicalize America's military in our
he's going to radicalize it. Eradicator!
history, purging anyone who supported President Trump, denouncing them as patriot extremists who are...
No. There is no effort in the Pentagon, and I know how these guys get upset about the fake news moniker, but there is no one in the Pentagon purging people based on their votes for Trump.
who are a threat to national security. That's on top of forcing the military to adopt Marxist, anti-white training programs like critical race theory.
Or diversity training, which you say is critical race theory because critical race theory is like Marxism, and you confuse those two things or intentionally obfuscate the difference in the same way that you talk about normal domestic taxation programs for priorities for the country as a whole as socialism or Marxism. It could be also that you're just full of shit.
Talk about a centrist.
Talk about a
He
centrist.
also lavishes praise on Biden's pick for Attorney General Merrick Garland, a man who also supports spying on our own troops and agrees with Lloyd Austin that conservatives
Spying on our own troops. Really? Just randomly? What is he going to do? Like, is he going to chip them all? We're going to put a microphone in everybody's quarters? What kind of spying is he talking about? Is it that OAN has a real problem with the white supremacists that are trying to use the military to train themselves up for the great day of the rope? That he's going to get, the Turner Diaries faction who's trying to join the military, that has been trying to join the military for decades. They had to broom a bunch of them during the Bush years. Why does OAN have a real problem with getting rid of those guys?
Conservatives are the biggest terrorist threat currently facing the United States.
Really? Conservatives? Is that what they are? They're just conservatives. They just don't believe in, in after-school programs paid for by the federal government. They're big states' rights fans. Is that why?
This is the guy running Newsmax, the so-called conservative who's supposed to be delivering unbiased news.
He doesn't even know you're supposed to make up shit.
Heaping praise on some of the most extreme leftists in Washington today. With that kind of
Really? Austin and Merrick Garland?
mixed messaging going on behind the scenes, it's clear why Newsmax has had trouble finding qualified journalists of their own. And it's no surprise then that Newsmax has settled for poaching reporters from One American News.
Oh, I see. So they stole some people from OAN. And that's hilarious. So they basically, same audience, they just bought the people who had a real show. And what do you think? Greg Kelly's been storming around the office bitching because they're getting all these people from OAN. It's lowering his paycheck.
OAN has a long history of training and working with some of the best journalists in the industry today.
And then Newsmax comes along and hires them. Damn it!
That's something
Oh, that darn marketplace.
that's impossible to achieve when you have a message compromised by cynical management who just want to make a quick buck off an audience they think is too dumb to notice.
Please tell me this isn't like their stockholder pitch. Dude, can you think of a better description of OAN than that?
Is too dumb to notice. Just want to make a quick buck off an audience they think is too dumb to notice.
Uh-huh.
Let us be clear.
Yeah, be clear about what? Jealous much?
One America News will make no compromises in our news coverage.
Yeah, you'll just increasingly become the QAnon news source, and that you know that you have increasingly tighter and more psychotic audience. And as Newsmax tries to balance itself out to actually compete with Fox News by actually having to operate on the same level as other news organizations, but with lower morals than even Fox News, you guys are going to go after the dregs who will chuck money at you hand over fist. I think we understand that, right?
We stick to the facts.
Uh-huh.
No matter what side they're on, and report the news you really won't hear
Do facts have a side?
anywhere else. For One America News, I'm Pearson Sharp.
Dude, that was first of all, does Pearson Sharp have a show on his own? One America's Pearson Sharp reports. Reports? Is he reporting? Not really. I mean, it's their Rumble channel, and they got 802,000 subscribers, and this only has 9,407 views and 2,421 rumbles. That's rough. I'm going to go with they're paying for these rumbles themselves. Is that not capitalism? Exactly. I would love if Newsmax poached him from OAN. That would be hilarious. And he would go in a fucking second, chat room. There is no question that this asshole wouldn't be over there on on Newsmax tomorrow night talking about the beta males over at OAN in a heartbeat. Oh my God. Pierce Sharp sounds like a local knife store. Sounds like a warning on the door. Holy shit.